But so the question is, how important is it for you to have control over your voice? Because if you're commissioned and have to make 3 propaganda, they could tell you, hey, you know those Uyghur people that we really don't like who are over in Western China?
That's a good point.
We need you to make propaganda that will inspire people to want them to be in camps for re-education.
How much have you
and
seen
if you refuse, you're going to end up in that camp next to them.
All right. What was that, Harry?
How much stuff have you witnessed I gave away?
A ton.
Gave away to people.
A ton of stuff.
See, the value there is not what it's worth, but it's worth to the other person because they need it. And if I give it to them, there's no strings attached.
Right.
Enjoy it.
No, I know. I said this on our first podcast together, Death and Taxes. You're the most generous person I've ever met. You really are.
I've been blessed that way.
I don't think you have a lot of hang-ups with money at all. But I think it's odd that somebody who has no hang-ups with money has to tell me how much every single thing costs when they come home with it. You know.
I think that he's not going to see that as being hung up on it. He's proud of having made a good deal. That's
a good value judgment. That makes sense. All right. I mean, I get that. But, I mean, as far as the Uyghur thing that you were saying, I don't know. If the Chinese government came to me and said, hey, man, it's time for your quarterly propaganda piece, and they said, hey, we need you to paint something that convinces people that the Uyghurs should end up in re-education camps, and you don't really have a choice. This is what you have to do. This is the exchange that you made. Part of me's saying, fuck the Uyghurs. And it's a dark part, but part of me's being like,
but
sorry,
that's what
Uyghurs.
I meant by it's a question of principle.
Sorry, Uyghurs. This is the world we live in. I'm enjoying my life. I don't know. Listen, man, this was made by Chinese slaves. I mean, we're all
guilty
kind
of it,
still doing it. We're already doing it.
Drowning in the shallow end of the deep state. This is the New World Order Now broadcast, coming to you live from the end of the world.
That's correct. You are watching the New World Order broadcast, coming to you live from the end of the world. Thank you once again for tuning in. And whether it's 8 people or 258 people, I've gotten used to both. Week by week, and in the great scheme of things, both numbers basically equate to jack shit. So thank you, everybody who is watching. I am your host, the Hatman. This is your other host, Talking Head number 5, and we are joined today by Harry from our infamous podcast number 3, Death and Taxes.
Hello, world.
Hello, world. Or 8 people from the world. So, you guys want to pretend that it's after Thanksgiving and we can talk about how we spent the holiday?
I ate so many of my pets and loved ones.
I didn't eat anybody, but I did get drunk and I threw up some of the people that I had eaten previously.
It's always weird when they escape you like that. It's terrible.
It kind of feels like you're doing a great evil when you throw up people. It's almost like you are desecrating a burial ground.
Yeah, almost.
And my toilet is haunted. I'm actually afraid to sit on it now.
Hashtag came back haunted.
It's kind of like salt in the wound when you throw up people and then you go ahead and the next day you're going to take a shit on them. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah. It makes you feel kind of hollow.
So
and hungry.
So why don't we all talk about things that we're thankful for?
Well, I think I'm thankful for our lack of an audience.
Harry, what are you thankful for?
Not too much. I'm just thankful for the knowledge I got. That's it. But everything most of the stuff in the world is bullshit, lies, hypocrites. So I'm not too happy to anything, but I like the fight.
You like the fight. I thought that it'd be great to start out the conversation talking about what we're all thankful for because of the season we find ourselves in, and completely bypassing the fact that I'm sitting in a room with 3 misanthropists at the moment.
I'm thankful for being a misanthropist.
You're sitting in a room with a dinosaur. I'm the dinosaur.
Did you get your taxes ready? You ready for tax season?
Are you kidding? I still haven't paid taxes in 23 years. I'm not even doing a 1040.
Who's your buddy sitting next to you?
That's my god, Irvin Schiff.
Your god?
Yeah, that's my godlike figure.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
the man that set me free.
Irving Schiff, the author of the
With
Federal
the zero
Mafia.
return. Yeah.
The Zero Return, the Federal Mafia. How paying income taxes is illegal and how to get out of paying illegal income taxes. And the puppet created by none other than the crazy cat woman from 8 Arc for Me on Etsy. Link in the description. And if you go look up a picture of Irving Schiff, who is basically an old... what would you call him? A disenfranchised, jaded Jewish guy?
Of course.
He ran for president on the Libertarian ticket. How many times?
Once in 96.
Just once? Okay. Watch me find out like 96 wasn't even a presidential election. Somebody calls me out in the comments.
No, 96 would have been a presidential election.
96 was?
Because
okay.
George W. Bush got elected in 2000.
Okay. All right.
So you figure every 4 years. So yeah, that math adds out.
All right.
Yeah, 96 Clinton won, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Clinton was running, and it was he was up in Connecticut, Stamford, Connecticut, that was running on. He made a lot more sense than all those damn idiots running for president.
I don't know, man. The video that I watched of his speeches for president, it was just like, it cut out everybody else. It was just showing Irving Schiff's answers to the questions and everything. But I tell you what, his son, Peter Schiff, right?
Yes.
Peter Schiff is kind of friends with Joe Rogan, and I saw a snippet of one of his interviews on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he strikes me as kind of a cunt.
Oh, really?
Kind of. What'd you think of some of the stuff he was saying?
Peter Schiff is falling in line with the rest of the rules and regulations. He didn't have the balls that his father had. He said publicly that he would not do what his father did.
Right.
His father took it all the way. And, of course, well, win, lose, or draw, at least he got his point across. He got $50 million back to the American people.
Right.
He sold 96,000 of his books.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And even if you got everyone getting $5,000 refund on a zero return, that's a lot of people.
Sure. Yeah, and it's a lot of money out of the federal mafia's pocket.
Of course.
So Irving Schiff is dead, and we decided to resurrect him.
You guys are going to bring him up again.
We decided to resurrect him as a half-length 3-foot puppet, a 2-foot puppet, and I think eventually we're going to have him being interviewed with Alex Jones. I think we're going to have him run in the 2024 presidential election.
Against Trump?
Oh, against whoever's running. I don't think Trump's going to make it on the ticket. Do you guys?
Well, I know he'll make Biden look like an idiot.
That's not hard to do.
No, of course, I can do that.
So that saying, well, he'd make Biden looking like an idiot, that's not a claim to fame. That's not, you know.
I think the funniest thing about the upcoming presidential race is just the fact that, like, how do we keep ending up in a position where we're just being given people to vote against? Like, that has been every election lately is just, who do I not want in?
The lesser of the evils.
Yeah,
That's the bottom line.
The lesser of the... There's nobody you can actually believe in. It's just, who do I not want to see with their finger on the button, which I'm not even sure exists.
First of all, who are the Republicans going to put in? The Santos from Florida?
I fucking know. Who knows?
He's like half a wit.
I don't know. What's the guy's name? Vivisection?
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Vivek Ramaswamy, that's his name?
Yes, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Have you heard this guy?
No, I've never. I only know the Santos.
This guy, he makes a good speech.
He is one of, so like, if you're gonna look at like Marjorie Taylor Greene and like and Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert, like he's of that ilk, like the people who have realized that the way to get in is to pander like fucking hard.
I don't see. I listen. I follow the guy on Twitter.
To that particular base, I'm saying, yeah, and I know, I see the Twitter account. Trust me, I've been making fun of a lot of the stuff he's been posting.
Yeah, I've noticed. And I'm not saying I like what he says. I'm just saying he's the most compelling candidate right now. He's very about God and pro-life. I'm very about that's like worshiping Santa Claus, and I think more people need to die, regardless of age. So I'm not saying I believe in anything that he says, but he's the most compelling candidate.
I would say,
in my opinion,
I would say that he's the most interesting of their candidates because, like, you've got Trump, who's Trump gonna Trump, you know. Then you got
Trump's got a Trump.
You've got DeSantis, who is basically just Trump light. He's like caffeine-free Trump. And then, like,
pretty much,
yeah.
Everybody thought he was gonna be so strong, and he I don't know, man. He did not come out swinging. He's very reserved.
He only came out half of the things he said he done. Now, what about this woman Greene for president?
Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Yeah, why not? What's the matter? She's got the space age.
Dude,
she could take out any enemy she wants whenever.
Harry, I don't know if you know about this, but her calling out our Jewish space laser program is not good for anybody. We're both members of the Goyim squad in the Jewish space laser program.
Good.
So if she's bringing the public's attention to this, Talking Head number 5 and I lose our authority to vaporize people and real estate from a distance whenever we like.
Either that or we've got to take orders from her, and frankly, I just don't like the cut of her jib.
I've never seen her jib cut. It's not a good cut?
Oh, she's like hardcore into QAnon and everything.
Oh, is she?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she's hardcore into QAnon?
Yeah, she's one of the people who got voted into Congress on the QAnon stuff, yeah.
Harry, how do you feel about QAnon?
My life?
QAnon.
What's that?
QAnon. Do you know you don't know anything about QAnon?
Q life.
What's that? Q? Like the letter Q.
Yeah. Oh, Q. The guy with the buffalo head on January 6th.
No, you see, dude, this doesn't even make it to everybody.
That's funny because I figured that QAnon would have been like right up his alley.
I know.
I took a picture of him. We have some things in common with him. We're both ex-Navy people.
Well, he's called the shaman. I thought he was mentally ill. He still lives with his parents. Isn't that guy the shaman? He's mentally ill, right?
No, they claim he's mentally ill, but he's not. He's just different.
Yeah, but doesn't he still like live with his folks and shit?
Well, I mean, I don't think that makes him mentally ill. I know that he asked for, I think...
Well, nowadays, no. I mean, it's like impossible to make a living, but...
Oh, yeah, but it's like, I think that the only thing that I really heard about him, apart from the fact that he was called the QAnon shaman or whatever, was that I guess his parents requested vegan meals for him or something like that in prison.
Oh, yeah. I think I remember hearing something about that, but I didn't equate it with him because I don't know his name because I don't watch the news and stuff.
Yeah, and I only know him as the QAnon shaman, but that was the only thing that I don't even know if that's actual. Like, I think I just like saw that very secondhand, you know.
Yeah. So, do you guys vote?
I voted.
Do you guys vote for the president?
Not yet.
Well, no, not yet. But I mean, do you on a regular basis?
I voted for the school board because I got one guy from the real estate company. He's about 450 pounds down to put him on the school board.
Why'd you name his weight?
Because he's the biggest guy in Pike County. He's bigger than the sheriff.
Is that why you voted for him?
No, he made more sense than anybody else.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, that guy ate more grandparents for Thanksgiving than anybody else.
He just likes a guy in office who will throw their weight around.
Hey, there you go. Nice. The biggest guy in Pike County. Nice.
Oh
shit, gave away our location. Oh, no!
Well, the sheriff weighed 400 pounds and he retired. He got on the farm. He lost 50 pounds. He's down about 325, but he's still overweight. He lost weight.
Yeah,
I'm glad he retired.
I don't want to vote for that guy. It's time for him to retire. He lost some
weight. Yeah,
weight.
30 years on the sheriff's enough. I kicked his ass enough in court. I taught him about the carry law. I took him on the mortgage fraud. And he was a friend of mine, and I put 2 RICO charges against him. And he was a friend.
You filed a RICO case against him?
2 of them.
Dude, Harry just files RICO charges like all the fucking time. Like, he's having difficulty with the homeowners association right now.
So he's filing a RICO charge?
Did you file RICO charges yet? Or
no, I filed United States Code 241, conspiracy under the color of the Constitution, fraud, extortion, robbery.
It sounds like it could go to RICO if we needed to.
Yes, I would like to see it go
he likes to hold that as like a back pocket card.
And, of course, the lawyer belongs to the Bar Association, British Accredited Regency, a.k.a. Lawyers Guild of Britain. So he's a foreign agent. I'll go after the foreign agent. I don't care.
Yeah, I know you're big into that.
I'm coming for you.
I've seen a lot of people disclaim that bar nonsense on Google. I don't know that it's nonsense, but there's a lot of people that say, nope, that's what bar stands for, British Accredited Registry. And there's other people that go, that doesn't make any sense. No, it doesn't. There's no historical precedent for it. So I don't know what to believe as far as that goes.
Well,
I thought it was interesting enough I looked it up.
Pennsylvania is supposed to be under English common law, and under English common law, that originally in the 1700s, the officers of the army was bar officers, and it was a admiralty court, military court.
Right.
And if you tell the judges that, they look at you, and most of these magistrate judges don't have a law degree.
Right.
Well, actually, that's a funny thing that I know about. So I can confirm the thing about the magistrate judges, because magistrate judges are actually either elected or put into their judgeship. Mm-hmm. So it's not a situation where they have to necessarily be a lawyer. A magistrate judge can be anyone appointed by the court.
That's crazy.
That was the title that the King of England gave the royalty to be a magistrate, the elite. And that's how it came about.
So magistrate was a title of nobility?
Yes.
Okay.
That I cannot confirm, but I do know that magistrate judges it's not like, so when you have federal judges, like federal judges are appointed by the government and everything like that, a magistrate judge, like a judge in a single jurisdiction can basically, it's almost like deputizing somebody. They can make somebody a magistrate judge to deal with certain issues and stuff like that.
He could go between the real court and a mediator.
Now, if you don't have to be a lawyer to be appointed to this position, what is the criteria for being voted in? I mean, where do you get to prove that you would be a good judge? I mean, what background are they going on? Basically,
they're going on your standing as a citizen. So it's like, so I've said this before.
Whose boots do you lick?
Well, it's what I've said before, is that you have to understand that when most of these laws were put into action, it was a very fucking different time, and we're so allergic to updating the laws to match the time that we fucking live in.
Well, hey, listen, that's what the people who wore the wigs and wrote shit with feathers on parchment, that's the way they wanted things. You're not allowed to question the magic scroll.
Exactly. It's like the fucking Dead Sea Scrolls or something, you know. It's like, oh, this was ordained by God. It's like, no, it was written by a bunch of dudes. A bunch of dudes in wigs who, if you brought them into the future for 5 seconds,
their heads would explode.
Oh, yeah. They would, brains would instantly liquid eyes if I showed them my smartphone.
Yeah. Of course. It looks like a portal to another dimension. This right here is the Library of Alexandria in the palm of your hand. And the information that it contains is literally everything. It's updated second by second. Every single moment that goes by, it's updated. It's up to the moment information. They couldn't conceive of something like that. You can have all the world's information on a little thing that you can hold in your hand. I mean, no, you can't.
Yeah, look at like things.
You are not God. How dare you?
Look at concepts like the Electoral College and stuff like that. It's like that was created for the purposes of the fact that like that's the best thing because they assumed that at the time that they were saying they were writing the Constitution, they were like, well, no one's gonna know who the national candidates are, so we need to have this group of electors. Who, like, you know, because nobody's gonna know, like, so they, like, do you know that you can have such things as faithless electors?
No, I don't know what that is.
So, the Electoral College, and this is actually a paraphrase, because I don't remember the exact quote, but Richard Nixon actually sat there and said, on the dangers of the Electoral College, he said, every election, we pray that the Electoral College will work. Like, that's how much, like, people have been debating whether or not we should get rid of this thing. So, let's say, like, there's certain states that have laws against it, but only 33 of them.
Okay.
So, there are states in which, if, like, let's say everybody in New Jersey voted for Donald Trump, the elector, and I'm not saying, I mean, New Jersey might have a law against it, but, like, they could sit there and be like, no, I'm voting for Biden. And there's nothing you could fucking do about it.
Right. Right.
So it's like most of our laws are just like...
Except not re-elect them in the next, whenever they're...
Not appoint them as an elector, but they're appointed by the party.
Well, no, wait, I thought the Electoral College was, I thought it was Congress.
No. So here's how Electoral College works. Quick thing.
Jesus.
So the way
I don't know anything.
The way the Electoral College works is you get a slate of electors for each state that is equivalent to the amount of senators and amount of Congress representation that they have. So the minimum amount of electors that you can have for a state is 3. 2 for the senators and 1 for the congressperson if you're a state whose population is low enough that you only have 1 congressperson.
Okay.
Now, what ends up happening is everybody puts in their vote and there's 2 slates of electors. So you've got the ones that are appointed by the Republican Party and the ones that are appointed by the Democratic Party. So what ends up happening is whoever wins the popular vote in a state, the electors of that party get to go to vote for president. You don't vote for president, they do.
Absolutely correct.
So let's say in a state where you only have 3 electorates, now, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are both putting those electorates. How many of the 3? 3 each?
So they would each have 3 electors. Whoever won the popular vote, that party would put forward their electors. The other 3 would not be the electors.
Oh, so the popular vote does matter.
But in certain states, like I said, only 33 states in the country have laws that punish the elector for voting against the popular vote. But there's states that don't have that, and some of them it's just $1,000 fine.
Yeah, but if your vote, the popular vote goes to the Democratic nominee, why would the democratically appointed electors vote for the Republican candidate?
Well, let's say you have a divisive candidate like Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. This actually happened in the Trump election. There was an elector who put in a vote for Colin Powell, who wasn't even on the ticket, because he sat there and was mad at the Republican Party for backing Trump.
Nice. That's great.
So much for free elections in this country. Wake up,
well,
America.
I can also see how perverse incentive would definitely get in the way. You know, like you can't bribe an entire state, but you could bribe a few electors.
Yeah, sure. And that's why, like I said, like even Nixon, famous person hated by the country for being such a scoundrel, was like, no, guys, we need to stop this. This is a terrible idea.
Well, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah.
So, there's that. I don't know, man. I think this Vivek guy is probably going to end up with the Republican ticket. I don't see Trump getting it. Do you?
Trump's currently beating Biden in the polls. If they want to
Once again, not a claim to fame.
I hear you.
How hard is that to do? The guy is senile and he's tripping over his own feet wherever he goes.
And
The point is, he didn't do it the first time.
And what?
He's shitting in his drawers.
Oh, yeah. Didn't he shit his pants or something?
Yeah.
I thought I heard something
He
about
had
that.
accidents.
Yeah, he had an accident, which, hey, happens to the best of us. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Dude's old. I don't understand why we keep voting for octogenarians.
Yeah. How old is Rashamana?
Vivek Ramaswamy?
Yeah.
I'm guessing in his 40s.
Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe early 50s.
Echo. How old is Vivek Ramaswamy? Ooh, I said it right.
Vivek Ramaswamy is 38 years old.
38.
Damn.
That's like Kennedy young.
I think Kennedy was older than that. I think if he got elected, that would make him the youngest president.
Hey, Echo, what's the youngest president ever elected to United States?
Theodore Roosevelt, who was 42 years
Mhm.
and 8 months old when he became president, is the youngest person to have ever been elected president of the United States.
Holy shit. So Vivek would be the youngest president ever elected.
Yeah.
Well, hey, if that happens, that definitely shows we're kind of sick of the guy who doesn't know where he is running the show.
I just, obviously, I wouldn't vote for Vivek Ramaswamy on policy issues, but, even if I agreed with his policies, he feels like he's just pandering to get the position.
That's why I like him. I'm scared of people who actually believe in shit. I think I talked about this on the last podcast.
Oh, no, yeah, and I hear you there.
I'm not only scared of them, I hate them. They make me feel such a how stupid can you be that you still believe in things? Knock it off. Grow up.
So you'd rather have the guy who pretends that he believes in things to get power for his own ends?
Yes.
All right. Fair enough.
I'm familiar with that. That's the type of greed.
It's the devil you know.
It's the devil you know. Am I right or am I right?
Well, you hate ignorance, don't you?
I certainly do.
And you hate when people can't think for themselves.
And I hate when people who are grown adults act like fucking children.
And when you show and prove things to them, and you show them in writing, they look at you like you came from Mars or something. I hate them too, but I pity them because they're so stupid.
What really scares me, here's what makes my blood boil with people who are voting. Citizens, you think this is going to be the first politician to ever grace the face of the national stage, to not lie to you and not steal from you? How stupid are you? All right, that's the way I feel about people who are voting when they actually believe in something. Now, a politician who seems like they're not pandering, that actually believes in what they're saying, that's a dictator. That's a dictator. That's somebody who, it's not going to be the corruption that you're familiar with, the corruption where you can be like, oh, this is what that person's going to do because here's where the incentives lie. They're unpredictable. If they think that God's talking to them in their head, telling them that, I don't know, women with brown hair shouldn't be able to procreate anymore, guess what? We're going to have measures to keep people with brown hair from procreate. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, you don't know where their allegiances lie because they're not acting on incentive.
It's unfortunate, but when they get in Congress and you get a young congressman in there, the old guy says, hey, listen, son, this is the way we run here in Congress. So you're going to get in line.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. That makes me comfortable. Is that foolish or what?
I'm not going to litigate on how foolish it is or isn't, but it's certainly one of those concepts where it's like, while I get where you're coming from conceptually, I do feel like, if anything, an ideologue is the most predictable.
Really?
Yeah, everybody knew what they were signing up for with Hitler. Hitler gonna Hitler.
Hitler gonna Hitler? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot that Hitler had to offer that the people of Germany found out after he was the Führer.
I do think that he preyed on their insecurities, their sense of injustice, and it's everything that's happening now.
And he was like, hey, by the way, I have a solution.
It's pretty final.
Now that you voted me
Hear
in.
me out, though.
Exactly. You know, I don't think he was going around campaigning on that shit. Now, was he demonizing the Jews? Yeah, but everybody in Germany hated the Jews back then.
And
that was part of it. It's just like saying we're going to build a wall now. It's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, and a lot of them liked the fact that he was sending them away, and they didn't care where he was sending them to.
So they say.
No, I think that's probably, like, if you're going to look at, like, people in Germany, I'm going to say that, like, if I had to make a guess, they hated the Jews, hands down. Like, most of America hated black people for the longest time. But it's
they don't anymore? Good for them.
I know, it's so good that we got over it.
It's really good that they got over that.
Yeah, it was a big hump to get over.
I say they.
Yeah.
You're still saying we.
Yeah, it was a big hump to get over.
Yeah.
But so I would run under the assumption that they didn't care where the Jews were going.
Okay.
You know, just like
it's kind of like when Giuliani made all the homeless people in New York disappear. Nobody questioned.
Asked. Yeah.
Where'd they all go, Giuliani? Rudolph, where'd you put them? They were just really happy that their streets were cleaned up.
They didn't care where the homeless people went.
No.
I worked in the subway 30 years. They lived between 1st and 2nd Avenue underground. The whole underground block. They had like a hotel down there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You had a book about that, right? Called The Mole People of New York?
I still do have the book, yeah. It's way outdated now, but it's called The Mole People. And it talks about there's a whole civilization of people that live underground in New York City. In the sewers, whatever, like they eat rats. So here's a scene from the book, just so you guys know how wild this book is. Highly recommend. It's been forever since I read it, but from what I remember, it's a great read. So he's down there interviewing somebody in a tunnel about his life and everything. He says this guy says that he's 31. He looks like he's 54, first of all. Second of all, there's a group of rats eating some trash in the corner or something. They're all like a little smaller than a house cat, each one. He's interviewing the guy. All of a sudden, he gets nervous because one of them spots them and is running over. Full speed, at a top clip, running at them while they're having a conversation. Without even looking down at his feet, this person lifts up his foot, waits for the rat to get close, and then stomps on its neck, and the fucking thing's dead in an instant.
Dinner time.
Then he picks it up and puts it in his bag. He's finishing the conversation. He's still talking to the dude, answering his question while he does
Yeah,
this.
without missing a beat.
Without missing a beat, he just caught dinner with his boot.
Oh, dinner came to him. That's fast food right there.
That's fast food, yeah. I can't imagine it's very healthy. Probably says why this guy looks like he's in his 50s when he's in his 30s.
But, you know, people like to talk about how being the president really ages people. It's like, I feel like being homeless ages you a little bit harder.
Probably. You guys notice the one president that we had that didn't look like they aged at all while they were in office?
Which president was that?
Trump. He looks like he's fucking younger when he got out. You notice that? Trump didn't age for shit.
He did a tuck and nick, just like Dolly Parton did.
I don't know about. He does look like he may have gotten boob implants. I can't speak to that. What I'm saying is, I don't think anything stresses that motherfucker out.
Oh yeah, no,
I don't care.
He doesn't give a fuck.
He definitely was the honey badger of the presidency.
Honey badger don't give a fuck. The honey badger of presidents. Oh, that's such a great meme.
If you were in the building line, you had to deal with the mob doing your hotel's building.
Sure.
And you want to fight them on an intellectual level? Fine. You want to fight them in the street? Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, my money's on Trump because he will take you out just as fast as anybody else.
But do you really think he's actually going to end up on the Republican ticket this election cycle?
I have no idea. I don't care.
When do we find out? When do they have
They have to have the primaries.
When is that?
The primaries will end up happening, I believe. So if the election's in November, I think the primaries happen in like late summer, I believe.
Doesn't it? It doesn't. That's way too late. No.
Maybe early summer, maybe spring. I forget when the
Doesn't
primary
it seem like I am from a foreign country and I'm interviewing you guys on how America works?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
I have no fucking
Do
idea.
you guys remember the Chicago 7 in Chicago?
I don't remember the Chicago
Well,
7. I am
but
not
the
that old,
Chicago
but I
7
know
was
who they
taking
are.
place in September. And that was with Jerry Rubin. And they arrested 7 people and they camped out at the Democratic headquarters.
What took place in September?
Primary for the Democrats in Chicago.
Okay.
And the Chicago police got involved.
Okay.
So I remember them. But Jerry Rubin was a character.
I don't know who that is. I don't know
The
anything about the
Weatherman?
Chicago 7. Nah, I don't know anything about this.
So the Chicago
Teach
7,
me American history.
All right. So the Chicago 7 is a situation in which a bunch of different people descended on Chicago, and they were of disparate groups. So you had some hippies that were down there, you had some yippies that were down there, you had the Black Panthers, you had a bunch of different people who were there for different reasons, but they were all there for a political protest.
So like Twitter real world.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was it was for a concert, right?
I think Humphrey was running.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is what actually happened there was a concert that they had there, right?
They charged him with some kind of riot act in Chicago. That's why. And who was that? The Kunstler was the lawyer for the Chicago 7.
Yeah, but why did everybody go to Chicago?
Because they were protesting the Democratic Party. Because they knew the Democratic Party was full of shit. And they got together, but they couldn't really get together on one central item.
So you're saying you think they had like a concert or something?
Yeah, there was
this in the
bands there
60s?
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, then that's probably it.
So it was a political protest and everything that a bunch of disparate groups showed up to. Now, what ended up happening is there ended up being a riot. And so what they did was they arrested the leaders or like purported leaders of each of these disparate groups and tried them all together for inciting a riot.
Okay.
So, but it was this very famous, like, completely political trial where basically everybody was assuming that this trial was occurring as a way to silence political dissidents.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was this very famous court case that was very heavily politicized.
And you're saying this happened sometime in early January, right?
No,
like
not in
September 6th?
January, September.
It was in January 6th?
It was in the summertime, around July or September. They were having their convention in Chicago.
All right. Never mind. That joke fell flat.
No. Yeah, sorry. I was trying to hear what he was saying, but yeah, I'm sure it didn't happen in January.
You guys are young compared to me.
No shit, really?
I'm an old boy.
Well, so what you're saying is nobody ends up on the ticket until September? It doesn't seem like a lot of time to campaign.
Well, so everybody's campaigning the whole time. Usually,
yeah, I know, but isn't it a little longer than a few months before we're like the 2?
I mean,
I remember it being longer.
Well, the political thing's always going on longer. Let me see. When are American?
Because I remember one of them has something that sounds like a sporting event. Super Tuesday. Is that the Republicans or the Democrats?
Well, Super Tuesday is just Super Tuesday.
Is every Tuesday a Super Tuesday?
I have no idea what Super Tuesday is.
Okay. Oh, good. I don't feel so bad. You know, the sad thing is I'm sober and I was born in this country.
When's the primary, guys? So it looks like March, April.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Got some in June. It's by state. June, August.
Oh, Jesus. It's by state?
Yeah. Each state controls when their primary elections are held.
And then what? They tabulate the states and decide who ends up on the federal ticket? The national ticket?
Yeah, so as you go through the primary elections, you'll sit there and you'll start getting the primary results, and that's usually when you start getting, like, people who are dropping out because they realize they're not doing good in the
so this
primaries.
is like a whole fucking process,
and
the media is just focusing on who they know the front runners are at any given time.
Money.
Yeah, those are the people who are the front runners. Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. Yeah. All right. I had no idea it worked that way. I thought like we got the bullshit done with the primaries pretty early, and then we had like 6 months where just two people running against each other.
So the reason why that can happen a lot is because of the fact that the states do their primaries at different dates and everything. So when you got states that have their primaries in March and April, you're going to start seeing clear front runners because of those primaries.
Right. Like right now, Vivek is a clear front runner for the Republicans.
Mm-hmm. He's actually doing worse than DeSantis, I believe. Trump's way out in front. Like, so as far as I understood, the last time that they sat there and took a poll for Republican candidates, Trump was higher than all of the other candidates combined.
Whoa. Trump might end up on the ticket. You're right.
Doesn't matter who they put in there. They're not going to bother me. I'm off the computer. I'm off the radar. They don't even know I exist anymore.
So you don't vote for the president?
I'll vote just to see what the game turned out to be.
Okay.
If I vote, I can't complain about what happened.
Oh, I complain anyway.
All right. All you're interested in is making money.
No.
Yes.
I have other interests.
No, you don't. You
Yes,
like
I
making
do.
money.
I believe
He
in
masturbates proficiently.
I like keeping my money.
I believe in beauty.
I
believe in love.
I know how to keep my money.
You talk about money way more than I do, motherfucker.
Well, that's my fund for my battlefront.
Yeah. Every time you come home with something, the first thing out of your mouth is you tell me how much it cost.
Yeah, well,
Who else does that?
I'll put it this way: you have a right. Where the hell I put it? No, if I pull $100 bill out here,
Yeah.
and you're in Portland and you got a store and your store's burning because the protesters are destroying it.
Okay.
What would you rather have, the $100 bill or my toy?
The $100 bill.
How do you protect your store?
He's not talking about the puppet. He's talking about
I'm
the
talking
gun.
The gun.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd rather have the gun. Of course.
Why? Because it's more valuable at the time.
Sure.
That's why you're in the warehouse.
The warehouse.
This is the warehouse. What do we got? 2 bedrooms and a kitchen. It's just the living space. And the other 4 rooms is the warehouse.
The bunker. Call it the bunker. The bunker.
If I had a fire in this house, what's going to happen to my house?
It goes to shit.
I was going to say,
gonna
it's
have a
probably going to
crater.
explode, I would assume.
Dude, did I tell you on the podcast when he pulled out dynamite from next to the fireplace?
Oh, you mean the road flare?
The road flares? Yeah. So I'm sitting in the recliner over here in this very room before we studio-fied it. And I'm a little drunk and we're having a conversation. And all of a sudden he pulls up this large metal pail.
Yeah.
And that's been there since I got here. And he uses it to store the fire pokers. It's right next to the fireplace. And out from underneath this large metal pail,
Big
he pulls
sticks
like
about
6
that
sticks
big.
of dynamite. Like, what the fuck? I was so, like... all I could think of was the story where Johnny Depp is hanging out, living with Hunter S. Thompson for a few months in his basement, and there's a barrel next to his bed, a big wooden barrel.
Yeah, and Johnny Depp's got his ashtray on it because it's basically an end
Johnny
table
Depp
next to
smokes.
the-
He's
next
got
to
his
the bed,
ashtray
yeah.
on the... It's like an end table for the bed. He's, and then...
nightstand, that's what it would be called. So.
Yeah, like a nightstand. And then, before he leaves Hunter, he finds out that it's full of gunpowder. It's literally a powder keg.
I think this story is actually even funnier than that because it's not about, like, he finds out before he left. What it was is Hunter was, like, talking to him and shit, and the whole time Johnny Depp's sitting on the bed, chit-chatting with Hunter, smoking a cigarette, and Hunter goes to go to bed because it's like 4 a.m. or whatever, and like he's like, oh, I gotta go to bed. It's like, oh, by the way, you should be careful with that. Your ashtray's right on top of that barrel of black powder.
So, like, I'm sitting here half drunk.
But he's nonplussed. He just said it in passing as he goes up the stairs.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here half drunk on the recliner. There's a fire going, and he pulls out 6 sticks of dynamite from underneath this metal barrel. All I could do was laugh. All I could do was laugh. I was like, "That's Harry. That's
it's
life in the bunker."
Well,
and he goes the next day.
Hashtag bunker life.
Oh my God, we need to do that. Start a campaign. And then the next day he goes to me, by the way, you know those are just road flares, right? I look at him and I start laughing and I go, yeah, I fucking believe you. Sure. I believe you too. And if you believe that, I'll tell you another one.
no,
Jesus Christ.
we won't tell you what we got buried in the back.
I don't want to know what you
You don't wanna
I don't
know.
want to know who you have buried in the back, let alone
Who?
what.
No, that was 30 years ago.
It's beyond the statute of limitations. We're
It is.
fine.
Oh, they're learning the law now.
Living with you, I fucking have to. Jesus.
Is there a statute of limitations on murder? I thought there wasn't.
No, the statute of limitations is the bones are dust at this point. So that's the statute of limitations.
It's a great tool to use against corporations.
Oh yeah, well, the corporations use it in their own statute of limitations. They use that in their own favor.
That's why you only get 2 years after your judgment. That if your judgment goes against you, you got 2 years to counter them. If they go past 2 years, it's final.
Mm.
Oh, you mean as far as appeals go?
Yeah, well, that's what the law said. And you chose to the judge, and the judge said, the judge won't hear that.
Yeah.
Isn't there a way that, so if there's new evidence that wasn't present at the previous trial, you can sit there and actually get a judge to go through with it, right? If there's new evidence, you can get
new
them to
evidence,
reopen it.
that goes into the lawyer's bag of tricks that he asked for a favor. Listen, I found new evidence in this case. Can we reopen it? He's got to sort of like pat the judge's ass.
Oh yeah, because no matter what, it comes down to the judges.
Right, it comes down to the judge.
Wield an insane amount of power.
I love the way he thinks. I love it. Pat his ass.
Patty ass.
I had a friend, George, that removed 2 judges off the bench and 2 troopers.
Mm.
Cost him about $40,000, but he did it.
What, he get them disbarred, or?
He got the 2 judges disbarred and had the 2 troopers fired.
So you know what? You're very politically involved. I obviously, if anybody talked to me, they would question whether or not I was born in this country. Let me ask you both a question while I go to get a napkin to blow my nose. What is the point? What is so great about being born an American? What does that get you?
So the funny thing about that question is what immediately springs to my mind is that famous scene. I don't even know what movie it's from because the scene has transcended the fame of the movie, with Jeff Daniels when they're like at like a high school auditorium or something, and like I guess it's got something to do with politics, and like the kids are asking, "Oh, what makes America the greatest country in the world?" or whatever.
It's a good question.
And his answer is that really long rant about how we're not. He's like, there's only 3 things that America is best at. We have the most incarcerated people. We have, and like he goes on this whole fucking tirade.
Okay.
And that's immediately what springs to mind when anybody asks me why is America the greatest country in the world or something to that effect.
Okay, so you actually don't see like a positive or validating way to answer that.
No, I think that there's a lot of good here. I don't think that it's the best.
And of course, the next question would be, where's the best? But let me, Harry, why don't you answer? Because you had a good answer.
First of all, there's 3 types of citizens in this country: the U.S. citizen, the USA citizen, or the USA citizen incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
They're all different states. So maybe a state of mind, maybe a physical state. But if you're a U.S. citizen, because they changed the law in 1871 and it became a corporate federal corporation, now you are a corporate citizen of the United States.
What I was talking about more so was...
What's the good about the United States?
Well, for example, like we went to that gun raffle the other day.
Right.
All right. And then they're playing this song And I'm proud to be an American.
Well,
'cause
at least I know I'm free.
And I'm sitting there looking at everybody, and everybody's looking around to make sure that everybody else is showing as much bravado as they are.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is the Republican version of, what do you call that? When you put your virtue signaling. This is the Republican version of virtue signaling. Everybody's pumping their fists while they sing, and they're all looking around to make sure everybody else is too.
We
You
all
better
belong
be
to
as
the same
enthused
club.
about this as I am.
We all belong to the same club.
We're in the same tribe.
And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, well, anybody says anything to me, I'm going to say, nah, that seems like virtue signaling, so I'm not going to do that, and you don't want to hear me sing anyway. So, but that's a good question. I mean, do you feel free?
Not really, because it took me 20 years to free myself from the IRS. I'm not free from paying real estate tax. I'm not free from driving these roads. You gotta get a license plate and a license that you're not free.
So you're not allowed to own anything.
You're not allowed to own anything. It all belongs to the corporation.
And what were you saying about the Godfather before?
The Godfather came to this country, and what did he say in the first movie? We come in here in America to make money. It's the only place we can make money.
See, I question whether or not America has a culture beyond that. The only culture that I see in America is the ability, which may be an illusion. It's arguable, and I've never had this discussion with somebody, so I'm only relying on my own internal thoughts here. But it seems like the only real culture that America has is the ability to
make a living.
No. Everybody makes a living everywhere. Class migration. You have the freedom to better your circumstance, bring yourself up from a lower class to a higher class, where with a lot of countries, you are stuck within the class you are born into.
Yeah, there's not a lot of social mobility in
social mobility.
Countries.
There you go. Now, that could be an illusion. Okay?
I think at this point it's largely an illusion.
You think? Okay.
You proved it with the history of the commercial interests from the 16th century all the way up to here with the trading companies. This is a commercial opportunity for the corporation, which has been set way back.
You know, Anton LaVey said the point of Western civilization is to be a flea market for the rest of the world. It really does feel that way. It really does.
I think that we've kind of fallen prey to our own bullshit, and by we I mean the royal we. Where I do think that that's the principle that the country was founded on. I think a lot of people who settled this country and who came up in this country at the beginning, at the inception of this country, felt like there was a better life to be had here. Mm-hmm. And that had a lot to do with freedoms, that had a lot to do with being able to actually purchase land, because obviously, you know, a lot of the immigrants were coming here from England. It's a fucking tiny island. Like, all that land is already owned by somebody.
And you are a serf.
And with the concept of colonization, because we didn't treat indigenous peoples in any place that we colonize as human, it's free land.
Right.
Go get your land, boy.
Go get your land, boys.
And so it turned into a situation where I think that they were happy to have that opportunity. And when as anything gets larger, it has to be more regulated, and all of a sudden they felt the thumb of the British coming back down again.
Right.
Because now you're getting a little too big. We need more regulations. We're going to send over British governors to sit there and control you guys and everything. And along with what was going on in India with the British East India Company and all of that, it was a situation where they were like, no, we left there to get away from this, and now it's coming across the ocean again. Right. And I think that there was this genuine want to sit there and break away from all of that, and to sit there and be able to be your own man, you know, like the song in Hamilton, in New York, you can be a new man kind of thing. And I think
you can reinvent yourself when you go from high school to college, but your circumstances
I mean, in a social level.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, like with the social mobility thing, to sit there and go from being someone's who's penniless to being a tradesman, to being a landowner, to being somebody who has clout, who has their own agency.
Yeah.
And I think that that's largely like the impetus that led to the revolution. You have to remember, like, when the revolution was occurring, like, not everybody was on board. There were tons of people who were like, this is fucked, guys. England's going to come here and fuck us up. You know.
But see, if you're going to fight against something that powerful, and this is a question that, I mean, I think that this is at the cornerstone, Harry, with a lot of the conversations that you and I have, because you spent so long fighting that it almost seems like that's what you live for. And you can't live for the fight. If you live for the fight, you don't have anything to fight for. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you fighting to accomplish?
I accomplished what I did. I got rid of one enemy.
Right.
It took me 27 years.
Right.
But I did win. And not 100% free, but I freed myself from one thing, which has helped my life greatly.
I have a massive amount of respect for what you accomplished, and I am never trying to undermine that. I always will say I have a massive amount of respect for anybody that sticks up for what they believe in, if their beliefs are about making their own lives better and not about putting other people under their control. There's a huge...
You can't step on other people to get up ahead.
Right, exactly.
You can't do that.
Unless they want to be stepped on, in which case... And you have to finely tune your senses to find those people, but that's fine. Certain people just want to be taken advantage of, let's be honest.
You pick your fight, but you have to have a goal.
So let's say... Ideally, and I'm not saying that we should live in an idyllic world. We should certainly live in the world the way it is. We can't put our blinders to the way the world actually is. But let's say if there was nothing to fight, you loved everything that was going on, you had all the freedoms and the privileges that you felt you should be entitled to as a natural-born citizen, or just being a human being born in the world. What would you do with your time if there was nothing to fight?
I guess I'd be a bored person.
Well, at least you admit it. And honestly, it's kind of an unfair question because you really do have to use a massive amount of imagination to picture how you would have come out under a completely different set of circumstances and influences. I mean, it's a difficult task. It may be impossible. You know, I don't know. I always cherished beauty, being surrounded by beauty, ease, comfort, stimulation, things that excite me.
He's masturbating right now.
Dan, that's the third time you made that fucking joke. Both of my hands are in the camera. I don't know what the hell you're looking at. Oh, he can tell that I'm using my knee. Shit. And I thought that this would be kind of an interesting avenue to take the conversation down because I am an aesthete. Like the way that, what's that guy's fucking name? The gay guy who's notable quotables all over England and...
Oh, Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde, yeah.
I'm an aesthete through and through. No truer words I could have spoken about myself than when Lestat, the character in Anne Rice's novels, he's talking about having his family's chateau in France redecorated, and he's talking about the King Louis furniture being recreated for him, but they used modern styrofoam and cloth, and he says, but I don't care about that. What I care is how things look. It's like, God damn it, that's exactly the way I live my life. I mean, I saw a chair in an oddity store. I guess it's kind of like a thrift store, but they kind of specialize in things that you don't find in a lot of places. And it was...
it's almost like an antique shop, but this stuff isn't old.
16th century cherry. No, 16th. The chair I bought is from the 16th century.
Oh, was it? I thought that it was just a replication.
Nope. Cherry wood. Well, according to them, cherry wood, Chinese chair that's sculpted out of like 3 different dragon bodies. It was like $650.
Yeah.
I got a great deal on it. But everybody else was looking at me like I was fucking crazy because I was about to spend $650 on a chair. Whereas, back then it's like, dude, you bought a couch? You drive down the street, you can find a couch.
Thank you, Kyle Kinane.
Most people have that attitude when you're at the age that I was when I bought the chair. It's like, you bought a mattress? You drive down the street on the right day of the week, you can find a mattress. Why is he about to spend $600 on a chair? But every day when I walked into my room and I saw that chair, it gave me so much pleasure to see it and to sit in it. I really enjoyed that chair. Like, to me, that makes my life whole or more whole. And I know that you, Talking Head, you're kind of like in the middle because you're a creative person, you're an artist, you appreciate beauty, but you're also highly technical. You enjoy fixing things. You just made your Christmas list and you asked for tools. If I ever asked for tools, I would be like, oh my God, what alien just stole my brain away from me? And
see the thing that I will say is that at least when I ask for tools, it's because this would be really useful for me.
I hate things that are useful.
See, I
hate that I need them.
Well, I appreciate kind of a marriage of form and function, I guess would be like if I were to pick what I think like a gorgeous house is, I'm of two different minds about it, because on the one hand, like, there is a part of me that would like a gorgeous Victorian style mansion or something like that, but there's a really big part of me that would just go pure Frank Lloyd Wright.
Frank Lloyd Wright I think his stuff is beautiful.
I know, but there's this elegance to it.
There's a simplicity. I don't think that things have to be ornate necessarily to be beautiful, but yeah. I don't think anybody would say that Frank Lloyd Wright's designs are not beautiful.
I know.
Now, Le Corbusier, who Salvador Dali called a fucking monster, you could say that is disgusting. He thought that architecture should be machines for living. He's the one who came up with the concept of you live in a fucking cube, motherfucker. That's all you get.
Oh, and they're doing that right now in like San Francisco area and stuff like that, where you can literally like rent a bed in a box pretty much in a room and you have a privacy curtain. So.
What else can people afford nowadays?
No, that's what I'm saying. But no, like in my, like, the reason why I bring up Frank Lloyd Wright is because, yeah, so for me it's the elegance of simplicity and functionality. Like I like open concept floor plans and stuff like that.
That's fine.
And but it's not because I'm like, oh well, I'm going to entertain or whatever. It's like I like to be able to efficiently move through my living space.
Okay.
I like to be able to move from one thing to another without having to go through a lot of rigmarole that you would have to deal with like banistered staircases and shit like that.
So I don't consider that rigmarole.
Well, I you remember what it was like moving into the apartment in the city. Yeah.
Moving sucks. I highly recommend hiring somebody else to do it if you have stairs. But then, on the third hand, so I would say that you're kind of like in the middle. You could kind of mediate this whole thing, because on the third hand, Harry over here, I don't feel like you have any appreciation for the way things look whatsoever.
That table you're sitting on, I made. This was free. That TV was free. And I get an awful lot of free stuff. I'm cheap. I'm frugal. And it serves the purpose.
Every penny.
It was worth every penny.
I don't pay for most things.
Right.
And I save my money.
Right.
Because if I want to buy something, I just go and buy it. I am not going to think twice about it.
Right. Well, I know that you like to have the freedom to do that. If you see something that you want, just buy it because you have the money surplus to do that. I love that too. Everybody loves that. I bought, like I said, a 17th century Chinese chair.
That chair was a thing of beauty to you.
There's no use to it. Like
No.
you would look over
your
that.
money. You could buy whatever you want. It's your choice.
Right, but you're more about functionality.
Yeah, functionality. That's all I'm worried about.
That's it.
I don't care. I could live in a cave in functionality. I'd probably give me a jackhammer and I'll cut a cave out and I'll make a bed out of stone. I'll make the rooms out of stone, and I'll be happy there.
Right. So if I ever were to say I had a beef with the way the world or this country is being run, the beef would be all the things that would keep me from being able to live the lifestyle I want to live. That lifestyle is leave me the fuck alone, allow me to be surrounded by things that are beautiful, create my own world where I feel the most alive. And all the ugliness of the world seems to keep trying to crack its way into my world. What's your world? I mean, my world is based on beauty. What's the thing that you were fighting for?
I'll buy an axe, and I'll get a piece of land. I'll build a log cabin.
Okay.
That cabin will be my beauty because I built it. I will buy a fishing rod to fish so I could feed myself.
Okay.
I buy a gun to protect myself and protect my property.
Okay.
And that's as far as it goes. I got 3 cars, and they're all old. And
really, only 3?
I only have 4.
Okay.
And
how many guns?
43.
Okay. And how many fishing rods?
86.
Okay. And how many log cabins?
Well, I haven't built the log cabin yet, but I did build an underground bunker 25, 30 years ago.
You told me about that, yeah.
And I don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah.
And that's freedom.
So your freedom is that
he's not beholden to other people.
Which is
I'm
part
not
of
holding to anybody.
Which is part of my freedom. You know, my ideas of freedom is I don't owe anybody anything as well. But there's a lifestyle that's not. I don't know. Like once you built that log cabin, I don't think you'd feel satisfied living in it. You'd want to build another log cabin.
No, I just feel because I'll be satisfied with that. That's all I need. What else do I need?
I don't know. You have 4 cars. How many log cabins do you need?
Well, the cars were cheap.
Well, if you're building a log cabin,
I could
that's
afford
cheap.
them.
So it sounds to me like his focus really is about the what would you call that? The value proposition. It's not about what he would use it for. It's that he got a good deal on it.
It's a trade item. It's a barter item. If this country goes to shit, there's a lot of people that are going to be hurting, and they gotta need trade items. Someone's going to need a car. I got it. Okay, what do you got for trade?
Well, that almost presents the difference in the philosophy between you two as, you know, that's a situation where you are preparing for a future that you're worried is going to come, whereas I think you are more trying to prepare for a future you want to have.
I think that if you spend all of your time preparing for when things go to shit, you're not living a life. It's like spending your entire life preparing for death. You forget to live your life. That's kind of my point. And I think that maybe I'm not understanding where you're coming from, because that doesn't make sense to me. I'm sure that doesn't make sense to you either. To prepare your whole life for death, you don't live, you know? To prepare your whole life for when things go to shit.
At what level are you living?
If not, I'm sorry?
At what level are you living?
Right now?
If you're a consumer and you owe your life out, you owe for a mortgage, you owe for this and that, that's not a life either, because you owe it out to somebody else.
Sure. You're like if you're in debt, you're an indentured servant.
Indentured servant.
Yes. I agree.
And I'm not that.
I agree.
And that's why that sense of freedom.
So it's really just the sense of freedom. It's not what you use it for at all.
No. The object means nothing, because when I close my eyes, it's all gone.
Okay.
But I got my sense of freedom. I'm not obligated to nobody.
Right. And that is the world to you, is the sense of freedom.
That's my world. Your world is different.
See, the only reason I want freedom is so that I can have a very specific thing. And if somebody offered me that thing without the freedom, I'd seriously fucking consider it.
Well, as long as you get it at a fair price.
Exactly. One of my favorite painters, Odd Nerdrum, had a student from China. And, they were asking him how well, because he paints in a very representational style. And over here in America and in, Western culture, that sort of thing is not highly praised.
It's not in vogue anyway.
So it's very difficult for representational artists, unless you're doing comic books or things like that. It's very difficult to make a good living. So the guy who was interviewing the student from China asked him, he said, well, how well does your work do in China? He said, oh, I don't sell anything. I don't have to sell anything. The government gives everything to artists for free. The reason is 2 or 3 times a year, they come to you and they ask you to create propaganda for them. So he gets 2 or 3 unpaid commissions a year. And in exchange, he gets to live a really great lifestyle, according to
whatever
him.
art he wants to be, but
Making whatever art he wants, traveling around the world, he's got cash in his pocket. He went to Norway or wherever to school with Odd Nerdrum for 11 months. Yeah, he's in Finland doing this interview with the guy. I think it's Finland. The interview, the show it's a great show if you're into art. It's called I
watched it with you.
It's called The Cave of Apelles. Is that how you pronounce it?
You and I watched part of it. Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, holy shit! If only I lived in China. That's the first thought that crossed my mind. And then I was like, oh wait a second, isn't that a communist? Oh, wait a second. Isn't that where Corona got stuck? Isn't that the country where they're locking people in their apartments? But my first thought was, that sounds awesome.
Well, and I think that's kind of the essence of the differentiation here, is that for Harry, it's about not being beholden to anyone in those kind of situations, and if that hurts him because he doesn't get the opportunities that you would get from being beholden to other people,
right?
His freedom is worth more to him than the opportunity.
Yeah, I have to say, I honestly don't care, as long as I get what I want and I feel like it's a fair, like you said, a fair exchange. Like, to me, doing 3 pieces of propaganda a year and then the rest of the year, living in this country, I'm going to be perfectly frank, I resent how much I am forced to focus on money. I don't like thinking about it. It's the least important thing on my mind. But yet I am forced to think about it constantly, to the point where if I'm not thinking about it, I feel guilty. Like I'm doing something wrong.
I actually get panicky.
Hang on, Harry wanted to say something.
The thing is that's your freedom. You don't want to be tied in with the money, but unfortunately the system does not allow you to break free for your lifestyle.
Right, without having a shitload of it.
Without having a chain on you, in the sense of the word.
Or a chain, yeah, like a lot of debt and stuff.
Right. If you got to paint 3 propaganda pictures for the government, and the government gives you $20,000 to travel around the world and go to art schools, right? You got to compromise your freedom.
Yeah, but I think that living here and having to focus on money 24/7 is a compromise of freedom too.
So you know what I think this really comes down to between the two of you is principle. So the whole thing is that, no, hear me out.
I'm listening.
So, yeah, no, I saw you make a face.
I'm going to make a lot of faces. I have a face.
Nah, that's accurate. So it's actually, so the question ends up becoming is what are you paying for what?
What's the value exchange?
Yeah,
I think it's less than principle. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's really an exchange of value.
Yes.
But so the question is, how important is it for you to have control over your voice? Because if you're commissioned and have to make 3 propaganda, they could tell you, hey, you know those Uyghur people that we really don't like who are over in Western China?
That's a good point.
We need you to make propaganda that will inspire people to want them to be in camps for re-education.
How much have you
and
seen
if you refuse, you're going to end up in that camp next to them.
All right. What was that, Harry?
How much stuff have you witnessed I gave away?
A ton.
Gave away to people.
A ton of stuff.
See, the value there is not what it's worth, but it's worth to the other person because they need it. And if I give it to them, there's no strings attached.
Right.
Enjoy it.
No, I know. I said this on our first podcast together, Death and Taxes. You're the most generous person I've ever met. You really are.
I've been blessed that way.
I don't think you have a lot of hang-ups with money at all. But I think it's odd that somebody who has no hang-ups with money has to tell me how much every single thing costs when they come home with it. You know.
I think that he's not going to see that as being hung up on it. He's proud of having made a good deal. That's
a good value judgment. That makes sense. All right. I mean, I get that. But, I mean, as far as the Uyghur thing that you were saying, I don't know. If the Chinese government came to me and said, hey, man, it's time for your quarterly propaganda piece, and they said, hey, we need you to paint something that convinces people that the Uyghurs should end up in re-education camps, and you don't really have a choice. This is what you have to do. This is the exchange that you made. Part of me's saying, fuck the Uyghurs. And it's a dark part, but part of me's being like,
but
sorry,
that's what
Uyghurs.
I meant by it's a question of principle.
Sorry, Uyghurs. This is the world we live in. I'm enjoying my life. I don't know. Listen, man, this was made by Chinese slaves. I mean, we're all
guilty
kind
of
of
it,
still doing it. We're already doing it.
No, we're all kind of guilty of it, and that's the thing that you have to remember when you see like the ridiculous things with the Stop Oil protests and stuff. Is that that's their principle on that is so elevated that that's what they do.
Yeah. I mean, you can. Yeah. No, listen. I mean, I would. I'm not saying that you are stingy or anything. I don't even think you're cheap. You spend a ton of money all the time. I mean, every week you're coming home with a new gun. Especially that last one's fucking badass. No, that was not a point I was making at all. I don't know, man. Freedom isn't really like. Are you any more free living in America, where you have to concentrate so hard on money in order to stay ahead of the game? Are you any more free living here doing that than I would be in China making a few propaganda pieces every year?
If I lived in any other country, I don't think I'd be here.
Well, yeah, because you'd be living in another country.
Because I would not give up my principle, and my principle...
Oh, you think you'd be dead?
My principle would get in the way of my life, or jail, or gulag, or whatever foreign country I'd be in, I'd be gone.
Well, I feel like I do have to shit on my own principles living in this country, because part of my principles is I don't want to worry about money. Ever. Because I know that I work hard. I'm a self-cultivated person. I spent all my free time in my youth learning how to perfect a skill, and perfecting that skill to the best of my ability. I'm not a lazy person. I'm a cultivated individual. I'm not watching TV. Now, right now I'm in a Zelda hole, but that shit happens. I read books rather than watch TV, just like you.
Again, let's call it design appreciation is what you're engaging in.
Oh, with Zelda? Yeah. I am appreciating the art of others. Absolutely. But, so I resent that I have to focus on commerce to the extent that this culture demands that I do. And to do it, I feel like I am shitting on my principles.
Sure, and I think that the stance that Harry takes on freedom being the paramount thing, I can completely understand and relate to that. But to the point that you're making,
I don't feel free here.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is the amount of fight that you had to put to be free in the country that you were born in. Like, you're not, like, this country is beholden to you, and you had to fight it just to get free of it.
Dues. I finished my
There
job.
were no dues to pay.
Right.
You were born
I
here.
paid the dues, and
He paid him
reward.
anyway. Yeah. He paid him. Like, you shouldn't have been expected to fucking fight for anything. The country should be protecting your freedom, and you had to fight them for it. So why am I proud to be born an American where at least I know I'm free? Can anybody answer that for me? Now, granted, this is the only country I've ever lived in, so maybe I'm speaking out of ignorance, but why is this so much better than everywhere else? People in fucking Norway seem pretty happy, too.
And people that come from third world countries that come with nothing.
Well, that's different.
They work very hard on what they're doing, and they succeed because their mentality, their family setup is different from an American.
I'm not talking about third world countries. Is it better to be here than Cambodia? Obviously.
You can be anything you want if you make the effort.
You have to fight like fuck.
But that's it.
And you have to be focused on money. I just designed a t-shirt. On the front of the t-shirt, it says, "Thinking never got anybody money." And on the back of the t-shirt says, "Unless you're thinking about how to make money." And I feel like living in this country, that is, that's the exchange. That's the rate of exchange. There's an old saying, the only crime in America is poverty.
True.
You have to focus that much time and energy on getting ahead. That's all this culture's based on.
And I think that it started off just because, like I said, when you think about in the grand scheme of the history of the world and the history of society, you're coming from a place where, like I said, kings and serfdom and all this other bullshit that God knows how that got started. And literally God knows because they created him and that's how that got started. But the whole thing is that it was a chance to sit there and be like, well, I could rise to this level. But at this point, I think that it's become so difficult for anyone born in this country or immigrating to this country to sit there and make any headway in that, because the game is rigged for the people who already were there and in that position. So you either lick their boots or you're so fucking innovative and so fucking willful that you spend your life fighting to not lick their boots. And no matter what, like, you are still stuck in dealing with this establishment.
Yeah.
It makes it really difficult to be passionate about, oh, I'm free and I can sit there and I can, I've got, thank God they didn't socialize medicine because I don't want them to pick my doctors for me. I can't afford to go to a doctor, whether I can pick them or not. Like, fuck you and your, oh no, if we had socialized medicine, then you wouldn't be able to pick your doctors. Can I pick my doctor?
Not if you can't afford a doctor.
Yeah. So I can't do that now. What are you taking from me?
Right. Yeah.
And that is the current failure of the American experiment.
I don't know. I mean, personally, can I say I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free? First of all, I didn't do it. I happen to be born here, so proud is a weird word. Am I happy to be an American where at least I know I'm free? I don't know. I'm pretty ignorant. I've never lived anywhere else. So Harry, how do you feel about being born an American where at least you know you're free? Do you feel good about this country?
That's the cards that were dealt to me.
Right.
And that's what I have to deal with.
Right.
I have no power over what station of life I was put into.
Right.
But I am responsible for what I do with my life.
Right.
And that's the big thing. If you're not going to take responsibility for your life or to improve your life, it's your own damn fault.
And I think the point that you were making before, where you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said if I was in any other country, I wouldn't be here anymore.
I wouldn't be here. I'd be dead.
You do live in a country where you have the right, for the most part, to fight your government.
At least I have the right to fight.
And they're not throwing you in, they're not disappearing you.
No.
Although the
Yet.
the government's fucking done that. I mean, look at Julian Assange. Okay, look at what's the other guy?
Snowden.
Look at Snowden. So, I mean, there's that. It's getting worse. It's not getting better.
Look at the children that disappeared in South America.
Yeah, sure.
And all the mother, I think it was Argentina.
Yeah, but that
that was a different country.
That doesn't excuse anything that America's doing.
No.
You know, that's whataboutism. You know, you can't say, well, this is really bad, but what about this? It's not a good argument.
Well,
the fact that other places are worse doesn't necessarily mean this is any better than
we have
it is.
our own
It just
black
is what
guy
it is.
here, what we did to the American Indian.
Oh, American
That's our black
Indians,
guy.
African Americans.
Genocide, slavery.
But that's an old argument. But that was like 150 years ago. And that history's there. We don't forget it. It's not happening today.
Right.
When the immigrants came to this country in 1900s, and they went through the same thing. But they learned how to improve themselves.
Sure.
Most blue-collar workers that succeeded made their sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not willing to make the sacrifice, you're going to stay where you are. We don't have a class system like they have in India. India has a different system.
Yeah, they have a caste system.
And you have, by your name, depends on what you do in the society.
But can we say trade-off instead of sacrifice? I really don't like the word sacrifice. I don't feel like you're born indebted to anything that you have to make a sacrifice for.
You're born into debt the minute you got your birth certificate.
Well, I think that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, well, no, according to the quote law, the birth certificate makes you indebted to society.
Yeah, there you go. There's probably where the phrase comes from. Earn your living. Yeah. I'm indebted
Earn
because
your literal living.
Yeah, I'm alive, so now I have to make up for that. Like somehow I'm in debt because I was born.
That's why the doctor slaps you on the ass and says, "Get out there and be somebody."
Yeah, exactly. Time to get a job, fuckhead. And don't get me wrong, I agree that there needs to be barter, and I am taking advantage of a lot of goods and services that I do not produce. But it seems incredibly difficult to get ahead as far as that system goes. It's crazy difficult out there.
Sure, and the powers that be in the corporate world are the ones who sit there and make sure, because they pay the lawyers that write the contracts to be in their favor and against you, and they write the laws that the lawyers that you hire will have to fight against.
Right.
And, you know.
Well, it's like you always say, they're just making jobs for themselves.
Socialized welfare employment.
Right. Like, dude, does anybody work less than 60 hours a week anymore?
Oh, no, I hear you there. Yeah.
Is there anybody who can survive that's working less than 60 hours a week?
Not today.
I don't think so. Not a lot.
I can tell you who. CEOs.
CEOs. Well, upper management types. Yeah. Judy.
Yeah, anybody who's part of the C-suite.
What's the C-suite? What's that
the
mean?
C-suite is a term for whatever, like, so CEO, CFO, you know, like, that's the C-suite. It's the people who are at the top of a company.
And Julie's not.
I
don't think she works 60 hours. I think maybe she works 25.
Upper middle management in certain types of industries, tech being one of them right now, sure.
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
But eventually, that AI is going to come in and make them all that extra sweet dough.
Well, I mean...
And then those people will all be out of jobs.
Weird thing about AI, and I said this, and then I heard somebody else say it. And this is somebody who's working on AI. He was interviewed on Rogan recently. I forget the guy's name, but he's part of the OpenAI initiative. Yeah. I think he's the head of it. He was saying, like, we thought that at first this would take away all of the labor jobs.
Yeah, the
blue-collar jobs. And then the last thing far in the future that it would take over would be the creative jobs. But what ended up happening is the exact opposite. The creative jobs are being taken over first. And you think about it in hindsight, it's obvious why. It's because you need an additional investiture for robotics in order to do the labor jobs.
Sure.
But the creative jobs can be done the way that the infrastructure is right now.
Yeah, because you're just writing something on paper or making a digital image, or it's all fabrication of things that So not to drag this into a weird direction. I don't think it will, but it's like, I know that this is a little off topic, but it just brought to mind the entire thing that I think I brought it up with you the other day, where Yahtzee Croshaw was sitting there and railing about when they have microtransactions in games and how they make you pay real money for something that
right.
can be infinitely produced at
right.
no cost.
Right.
And he was like, that is not that is not commerce. That is the death of economics as a concept. And to me, that's what AI taking over art kind of like slots into. It's like, oh no, if you're sitting there and you're taking away money from people or paying money into something that produces something that can be produced infinitely for no cost,
no additional cost once it's created.
Yeah.
No, I think that's an economic boon
for
anybody who can create
something
that's desirable, that doesn't have to be, that creates no additional resources to reproduce. That's
I think
that's brilliant.
I think we'll know that AI is.
I love that concept.
I think we'll know that AI has broken commerce and economics when they change the law. And here's what I mean by that. So right now, the courts have ruled that anything that is generated by AI cannot be copyrighted.
Right.
As soon as you see anyone lobby to change that law...
Oh, it's probably already happening. They're all probably already lobbying.
If that ever gets passed, yeah, no, that's fucked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right now, if you're a worker and you create something while you're on the clock for the company owns the copyright, not you. What's the difference between having a human worker create something on the clock and having AI create something on the clock? Of course, the company should own the copyright.
But that's the beautiful thing about that AI thing is nobody owns the copyright. It can't be copyrighted.
That's gonna change because that
I know.
Honestly,
that's what I'm saying.
Honestly,
that's when you'll know
if
they're
a company
gearing it up.
If a company can own the rights to something an employee created and the employee does not own the rights to it,
that's contractual though, and that's the only reason why that can stand.
Well, the AI isn't a sovereign entity.
Exactly.
The only reason why you need a contract is because a human being is a sovereign entity. AI is not.
Yes, and as being employed by that company, you have signed a contract stating that your intellectual property is copyrighted by the company and not you.
Right.
Because the AI has no sovereignty to itself, it can't engage in that contract, and therefore there can be no copyright on it.
That's stupid.
It makes sense to me.
It doesn't make sense
in a legalese kind of way.
Doesn't make any sense to me. Well, in a legalese sort of way, but it's like if a company is using AI to create something, it should fall within the window of that company's trademark or copyright.
It can't because it was generated procedurally, and therefore it's technically random.
I'm saying it ought to.
But what I'm saying is...
In my opinion.
I'm going to sit there and say that I think that the contracts that they make with creatives where the company owns their shit are kind of bullshit, and I feel like that should be illegal. Which I don't want the AI to have that happen because then it's all fun.
I don't know whether or not the contract should be illegal, but I would say most creatives should very, very carefully consider whether or not they ever sign one.
Well, it's like the whole thing that we were talking about with the propaganda for China. That's the price.
You want to work for Disney, you want a good salary being an animator or whatever.
Yeah, make your name, get exposure.
Disney's putting Ariel on lunchboxes, not you.
Nah, sure. I hear you.
Is what it is.
I feel like the relationship between creatives, labor, and corporations is fucked right now. It's so toxic.
Well, I don't think creatives really have much of a future with the way AI is going.
Oh, well, and that's why the writers went on strike recently and everything, is because they wanted
see
language in the contract that would prevent them from sitting there and being...
The writing's on the walls. Yeah.
You know what? I feel like no matter what, even if AI got to the point where it was writing like full beautiful novels and things like that, and I'm sure it'll get there eventually.
We're pretty close.
I think it's one of those things where if we get to that point where it can create things that are as good or better than the people who are writing stuff now, creating stuff now, painting stuff now. It's time for a reappraisal of commerce at that point.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to reappraise commerce because nobody's going to be able to make a living because
nobody will be able to buy the things that you're producing. Yeah,
nobody's going to be able to buy the things that robots are producing. So you need money in people's pockets.
Yeah, and I think we've hit that point where we're almost not able now to purchase the things that are being produced by commerce.
Cheap credit allows us to do that, but that's going to be a fucking problem.
Oh, sure, because that's just going to create another bubble that's just destined to pop. And I think that and I'm not an economist, but
I should be happy that I'm kind of witnessing the death of the entire system that I hate so much. I'm watching it crash before my eyes.
Slowly.
Yeah. It's a slow death, and it's a painful death for everybody who's surrounding the system, but it is slowly dying.
Well, when you're a part of a system that is dying,
you're going to feel it.
Yeah,
you're going to feel it. Yeah.
Like you're making T-shirts.
Well, I'm making designs.
You're making design T-shirts.
Right.
All right. Could you copyright them? Or
they're copyrighted the moment he makes
AI? Them. They're coming off AI.
Right. Well, some of them are, yeah.
Okay, I created my tax statement 20-some-odd years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it to somebody. They copyrighted it and put it out there.
Right.
I didn't get no money for it.
Right.
But I wasn't looking for money for it.
You wanted the information out there.
Idea out there.
And he had more of a following.
He had more of a following, so I used him in a sense to get the word out.
Right.
I only wanted to get the idea out.
Right.
And keep it going.
And speaking of which, I'll put your tax statement, I'll put the link on the description to this show as well. And I'm sorry that the last episode we did only got 8 views. So, hey, no promises, but we'll put it up again. So, yeah, so it wasn't about money, it was about principle.
It was about principle.
I get it. I don't
need the money to feed myself because I already established my base already.
Right.
Through that 30, 40 years I worked, and I set my base up, so it's not the question of needing the money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving my idea out.
I think, if you were going to say, okay, fine, you fought for freedom, but now that you have it, what are you going to use it for? I think that the closest thing that you could probably give me to a satisfactory answer that's honest is probably you want to use your freedom to give other people more freedom.
Yeah, I want to free other people.
Any freedom that I have is to make myself happy.
Well, that's partly what freedom's about.
I know you appreciate honesty, guys. I don't give a shit about anybody.
Oh, that's what it is. If you can't be honest and you can't be free about what you say, you're the flip-flop. You're a waffle.
You're a waffle.
And you can't trust a waffle.
No, you use that word a lot. It's a good word. I like it. All right. Anybody else have anything else to add? We're running a little long here.
Let's hope some people listen to this and get educated by it and learn something.
Or not.
We're not.
I said or not.
Oh, we'll see where it goes. Life is a crapshoot. Sometimes you're a crapper or a crappy.
Yeah.
Take your choice.
I'd rather be the crapper. That's my choice. What about you? Crapper or crappy?
Well, I don't know how to answer that. That's a very weird...
I don't want to be either. They both seem bad.
They both involve crap. I'm going to throw that out there.
Yeah, they both do involve crap.
But no, I think that to put a cap on the entire thing, I do feel like there's a duty that every individual has to themselves and to the interests that they feel like will make their world better.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody could understand themselves the best that they could and understand the truth of the position that they're in, no matter where they are, if you can understand where you are, I think it was Roosevelt, I may be misattributing this quote, but he said that you can only do what you can with what you have where you are.
Sure.
And I think that so many people get swept up in great injustices or sitting there and feeling like they're beholden to ideology or beholden to a political party or beholden to a country. Your country is you. And if you're not going to be you, this isn't a country.
Well, I think that in order for people to improve their world and their circumstances, a lot of what they ought to do is create value for the people that they're surrounded by. Ideally, that's what the concept of commerce is supposed to reflect.
Yeah, that's the true, like, intent of the free market.
I will say that I have never met anybody as generous as Harry here, who does create a tremendous amount of value for the people around him if they're willing to accept it and take advantage of it, which for some reason a lot of people say no to you when you offer them things, and it's kind of I think they're just so taken aback that they don't trust it because they're not used to it. You know?
I think in general, people aren't used to genuine people, and so they're always waiting for the other boot to drop.
Yeah, when's the other shoe gonna drop? Yeah.
Like Popeye said, I am what I am, what I am.
All right, let's take a break and do Alex Jones.
Alex Jones! We'll be right back.
Be right back.
All right, Nation, Alex Jones here. We got a lot of stuff to cover tonight because I'm going to tell you it is a dire situation in American life right now. There is so much going on. We don't have the time to cover it, and I'm just going to tell you right now, we're just going to dive right into it. All right, so first things first, being bullied, just act less gay, advise teachers. So, from what I can understand from the wording of this and the poor grammatical stance that they're taking here with that singular Oxford comma, that if, as the master of the English language, I'm going to tell you here, if you're sitting there and you're telling people that being bullied, ? Just act less gay, advise teachers, what you're literally telling people there is a twofold proposition. Now, I don't want to act like I'm a legal expert. Obviously, my lawyers aren't. And I learned everything that I know from them. It's been a terrible journey, and I have learned nothing, ever, on anything. But if you're telling people who are being bullied to act less gay and advise teachers, I don't know how you do that. Because think about the liberal shit that's going on in schools right now. You sit there and you look at all these people who's like, they're sitting there and they're indoctrinating these children. You can't act less gay and advise teachers because the current situation in our public schools and in the public discourse is that they're trying to propagandize you into sitting there and learning all of this liberal nonsense. So you need to act less gay and advise teachers. How are you going to do that if you're not acting gay? From what I understand, the Board of Education won't even allow teachers into schools that aren't gay. So if you're acting less gay and trying to advise teachers while not being bullied, it's just not going to work out for you. Here's my advice for you. Act more gay and don't talk to teachers. I don't know how that's going to help. I'm just saying, you're going to throw a wrench at the system and the system of oppression for these students who are just surrounded by well-advised teachers and homosexuals who are bullying them. It's just untenable.
Okay.
Now, nextly, Christians will play atheists in charity volleyball match. Now, here's what they're not telling you. Straight off the rip, they're impersonating atheists. Because they're going to play atheists in a charity volleyball match. They're not playing against them. They're playing them. The Christians are pretending to be atheists. Now, here's where you run into danger with that. It's just like the entire thing with January 6th and Antifa. You can't impersonate somebody who is sitting there and against your morals. Because the more that you sit there and try to play those kind of angles, you're just going to be sucked in by the dark side. Now, if you sit there and you think about the fact that they're impersonating atheists in this charity volleyball match, why? So they can get into these gay schools, advise teachers? I don't even know where we're going with this. The world is mad. All right, so new sick policy requires 2-day notice. Now, this is important for commerce. And I know that I require this. Everybody here on the prison planet, at InfoWars, at my nutraceutical company that is definitely not owned by me, that unfortunately I owe millions to. And you have to understand, if you're going to call in sick, you need to do it 2 days in advance. Because how am I, as a job creator, as a patriotic American, as somebody who understands the value of hard work, anytime I'm calling in sick, I do it 3 months in advance. Because my body is a fine-tuned machine. We'll show you pictures. They're very red. And if you don't understand, like, I can tell just from the pigmentation on my skin. Like, you see people who sit there and take a pH strip and test their pool, and they see what color it comes out. I can tell just from standing in the mirror, the chartreuse-ness of my skin will let me know whether or not I'm about to develop an illness in 3, 6, even 12 months. I've called in sick 3 years in advance. In all honesty, I feel something coming down in 2027. I'm going to call it in now. And the whole thing is the reason why I have this incredible physique and the ability to understand my physiology is because I have talked to the finest pseudoscientists about what you can do to fine-tune the machine that is your body, built by Jesus Christ, ordained by Reagan, put into a Republican machine that is well-oiled, greasy, and possibly overheating. And what we do there is we sit there and we can give you the means by which to understand your physiology so well that you can tell world-renowned scientists and epidemiologists and Episcopals exactly what it is that's wrong with everything that they're saying. And that's these fine nutraceuticals, and I'm going to give you the best one we've got today right now that we have a surplus of and we need to get rid of. What is it?
Today, Alex, we have hemorrhoids.
All right, so hemorrhoids. I'm going to tell you right now. Do you feel bloated? Gassy? Do you feel like you are just an appendage to a system that just keeps sitting on you and putting pressure on you to the point where you feel like you're about to burst? Do you feel like an ass? Do you feel like you are attached to a sphincter of hate and propaganda that is just about to make you pop? Then let me tell you, you need hemorrhoids. Now, it is pH balanced for men, although it is powerful enough for a woman.
Trademark.
And trust me, I understand that women seem like the fairer sex. There's nothing fair about it. Because they cheat. They cheat like that cheating judge that sat there and passed that judgment on me. So sure, this will work for her, but I'll tell you, I'm not buying it. I don't understand why you would allow a woman to sit there and infringe on a man's right to sit on a donut. Sure, sometimes we eat them, sometimes we sit on them, sometimes you just got these little balloons that are coming out of your butthole. I don't know what they do. I don't even understand what their evolutionary purposes is. In all honesty, I don't even get why they're there. All I know is that every time I yank out those 3-inch Benway balls, they just pop out. And if you take hemorrhoids, I'll tell you, we've got a patented process for this. What we do is we sit there and we take rhinos and we have them mate with elephants. We have to get them step ladders. It's very confusing. But the entire thing is that eventually we can sit there and take the progeny that they have created. It's almost like a liger. I call it an elephino. Some people want to call it a rhinophant. We're still in patent discussions over it. But we take that demon offspring, we grind it into a paste. Now, this paste can be put into a tube that you can then insert into your rectum, just spread that around those little pain balloons, they're going to go away.
Oh my God.
And once those pain balloons go away, you can sit tall as an American, not on a donut. Donuts are German. It's fried dough.
Jesus.
Do you want to be fried dough? Do I look like I'm made of fried dough? No, I am rock hard, solid, iron, something else. I don't know where I'm going with this. It doesn't matter. The point is that I can sit tall in this incredibly uncomfortable chair, and I can tell you that if you sit there and you use, sorry, what was the name of the product again? Hemorrhoids. It's gonna get you to the point where you can, if you're not gonna stand up for what is right, then we need to empower you to sit down for it.
Every time you bring up how we create these nutraceuticals, it sounds like I'm going back to the island of Dr. Moreau. It always ends up with grinding.
He's just an employee. We owe him $50 million as part of our bankruptcy. He's on a 1040. It's completely different. My parents did not hire him.
All right.
All right, next. From the back page. So if anybody doesn't understand what the back page is, then you have not lived out of a hotel or motel in the Midwest when you're just feeling like you need some strange. All right. State population to double by 2040. Babies are to blame. Now, we talked about teen pregnancy a lot here. What we haven't talked about is infantile pregnancy. This is a real epidemic that's happening. This is a situation where there are children as young as still being in vitro getting pregnant because of liberal policies in school. My daughter sat there and squatted over a litter box because she identifies as a cat. She got pregnant, and not only did she get pregnant, but her baby got pregnant later that week. This is why babies are to blame. If we can have children as young, what is science coming to? You sit there and see these gender-affirming surgeries, this gender-affirming care. Well, they're using on little kids. I had them, you hear stories about these children who have had working 30-year-old teenage ovaries and uteruses implanted into them. They're already pregnant. Where does it end? It's madness, people. All right, and lastly, a prisoner serving a 2,000-year sentence can face more time. Now, this is interesting. And we're going to get into it. There's a spiritual dilemma going on here. You sit there and you think about this 2,000-year-old person. Like, they've already served their sentence and now they're facing more time. At 2,000, is that fair? What if they want to sit there and finally get out of jail? I mean, this person was around. This is a contemporary of Jesus H. Christ. He's still in prison 2,000 years later, and now they're trying to add time onto him. This is a conspiracy, and I'm telling you right now, from what I understand, he is currently teen pregnant with the next Messiah. Sure, God did it, and we're not going to blame that baby because that baby is blameless because he is the Son of God.
Oh my God.
And now we need to question, how crazy is this when the FBI and the DOJ can be weaponized against good, God-fearing, God-knowing, Jesus-adjacent individuals who have already spent over 2,000 years in prison, and now you're sitting there and telling them they could face more time despite the fact that they have been impregnated by God. And I don't think babies are the issue. I think it's liberalism. Obvious fucking Lee, who is a Chinese friend of mine. I'm not racist.
I had no idea that we were going to go into it's the baby's fault because the babies are getting pregnant. So you basically just called a bunch of infants whores. And this person with a 2,000-year-old prison sentence is actually 2,000 years old. Wow. A lot of curveballs there, Alex. You are really weaving together the conspiracies. I didn't see it that way.
Hey, it takes a well-trained eye to understand it, and you gotta figure, like, they shouldn't have dressed like that if they didn't want it. They should have known I had a diaper fetish.
Thank you for watching the New World Order, and just remember, we are watching you too.
So